HOGuru here with a look at some games I played recently. As always, I'm going to be rating them out of 10 based on how interested I am in coming back and playing some more. Iragon. So Iragon is finally out. I checked out some in-progress versions of this while it was being developed, and I've got to say it's come a long way. The devs have worked out all of the issues with sword collision, so now the VR swordplay works extremely well. Likewise, the magic attacks are a breeze to target and fire. VR only works if the player feels like their interactions with the world are being accurately simulated, and Iragon's developers have taken it from a janky experience to an extremely smooth one. That said, the gameplay is fairly basic, levels are pretty small, and there aren't a ton of interactions other than combat that I've seen. Perhaps things open up a bit after the first hour, but for now I've just encountered lots of wolves and skeletons to kill. There's both a regular version of the game, which is a standard fantasy adventure, and a lewd one, in which women lose clothes when they're damaged in combat, and apparently there are love scenes at some point further in. I'm interested to see how the story develops, so I'll likely explore this one further, but it's not at the top of my list for VR games at the moment. Also, the developers made the weird choice to set checkpoints on starting a new level, rather than finishing the previous one. So when I quit from the campfire caravan area after winning a fight, when I attempted to restart, I was back before that fight had happened. Not a huge problem, but it is a weird one. 6 out of 10. Bootstrap Island. This is just an amazing piece of work. It's a survival game built around being as immersive as possible over incredibly short periods of time. Forget all of the planting crops and building settlements. Bootstrap Island wants you to figure out how to build a fire when you don't have an inventory, or a button that says, press E to start fire. Players wash up on an island after a hideous shipwreck, and then have just a few minutes to find drinkable water and build a campfire before the sun goes down and a variety of wildlife comes out to hunt. There's flintlock pistols for self-defense, but they need to be manually loaded, which is every bit as awkward as one would imagine. This isn't an expansive game, but by making the player work hard for everything they want to accomplish, it feels incredibly satisfying. Interacting with the world looks and feels great. The devs have gone the extra distance and given every item a believable amount of weight and heft, so lugging lumber around the island to start a fire feels like an actual ordeal. At the stage of the game I'm in, just an hour of gameplay, I don't have any inventory yet, and who knows, maybe I'll never get one? As a result, I constantly have to think about what to carry in each hand, which forces me to plan out every step of my day. With the island randomizing every time the player dies, they have to develop a new strategy each time they restart the game, and they're going to be doing that a lot. While I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to beat Bootstrap Island, I'm really looking forward to trying. 9 out of 10. Soo Bomb. Well, this is just a delight. The title suggests a Soo Bomb style block-pushing adventure, but no, this is a game about drawing strings through a field to create chemical bonds. It's an endearing little puzzler that has one of the greatest hint systems I've ever seen. Instead of giving the player a clue about what course to plot, the game shows what the final version of the chemical bond should look like, but the player still has to figure out what order to connect the elements in to make the right path through the level. It's the exact right amount of help, because you get to feel like you're figuring something out even when you have a helping hand. Also, there's a nice informative message after each level, giving players a chance to learn about the elements and compounds they're building. Just a great educational game that anybody could enjoy. 9 out of 10. Foglands. Check it out! I re-reviewed Foglands. The developers reached out after my first review requesting that I submit some of the bugs I encountered. 20 hours later, I'd beaten the game as many times as it took to see the end credits, and I had a great sense of everything that didn't work about the game. Now, the patch is in and the whole thing plays far more smoothly. The slow-mo no longer makes aiming impossible, the frame rate is smoother, doors have been labeled so it's much more difficult to get lost in the maze-like dungeons. There's a ton to love here, and while the melee remains, basically unusable unless you're playing on story difficulty, the gun combat is more satisfying than ever, especially since they have yet to repair the infinite ammo glitch. Now that I've seen everything the game has to offer, it says something that the central loop, exploring ruins and blasting beasts, is satisfying that I'm likely gonna keep going back to it and maybe even get my way to the ending again. 7 out of 10. Coin Pusher Casino. As someone who's generally against the gambling industry, I'm of two minds about games like this. Will it scratch that itch without costing people their life savings, or will it just encourage people to search out the real thing? Sadly, I'm not a sociologist or a psychologist specializing in gambling addiction, so I can't offer any answers about the moral value of this game's existence. All I can do is tell you that, yeah, it feels pretty great to play. The physics are perfect, the boards are designed beautifully, and being able to choose exactly where to drop coins makes the whole thing feel way more skill-based than it actually is, which is just what the house wants. The only real drawback here is that the arcade mode isn't explained well, or really at all, which makes it less engaging than it should be. But let's face it, there's a reason that games like this have become mainstays of the casino industry. It's a slot machine where you feel like you're doing something. And that's pretty awesome. So yes, I'm going to be playing more of this. 5 out of 10. Panic Pump! Offering cuteness and frustration in equal measure, Panic Pump has players sending bubbles through tubes to free cute little monsters. At first this seemed simple enough. Rotate valves to let bubbles in, match the bubbles to blow out locks. Things get really complicated really quickly though. First you're sorting different colors, then you're having to manage bubbles moving over different sides of a cube, then figuring out how bubbles will behave when bounced off another bubble amongst a tangle of pipes. It's got a great difficulty curve, in that just as you start to figure out the flow of the game, it constantly adds a new complication. My only real issue is that it's a little more difficult to control than it should be. Using the mouse to rotate the cube never stops being awkward. I'm sure that this game was designed to be played on touchscreens, so this kind of problem is inevitable, but I wish they'd have added keyboard controls for the PC release, so I could just tap the arrow keys to flip the camera around, while using the mouse to interact with the valves. Still a good puzzler though. 6 out of 10. Winter Survival. I'm a sucker for any game set in the winter. Is that because we don't have winters anymore and it hits me with a ton of nostalgia? Probably, yeah. But despite that predisposition, I can spot something special when I see it, and Winter Survival is an outstanding example of the genre. After what has to be one of the best tutorials I've ever encountered, the game throws players into a desperate flight from wolves and bears, asking them to hide in caves and bind their wounds, all while worrying about being able to track down their missing friends. The high watermark for this genre has been The Long Dark for quite a while, with that game being held back only by its penchant for crashing and deleting the player's progress, which is really the developer's refusal to back up the player's saves. But we're not here to talk about what Long Dark gets wrong. We're here to talk about what Winter Survival gets right. The cold feels oppressive, the combat is brutally realistic, and the insanity effects that crop up as things get worse and worse for the player are absolutely chilling. It's in early access now, but there's plenty to recommend it already. I just hope that they wrap up the game faster than a certain other game did, so I can jump back into it and see the adventure all the way to the end. 8 out of 10. Please touch the artwork, too. This is as gorgeous a hidden object game as I've seen. Players control a black and white skeleton who has to explore fantastic paintings while completing item-finding requests and doing little puzzles for the characters with it. The game is a celebration of James Ensor, who is a Belgian painter, and it's being released to commemorate the 75th year since his passing. This solo dev has done an incredible job of building a narrative out of his paintings, allowing the player to move seamlessly from one image to the next, as if they were rooms in a house. The transitions are logical, the challenges are interesting, and the whole experience is uniquely impressive for the genre. In fact, I don't know why I'm wasting time telling you about it when you can just be playing it for yourself. The game is free on Steam. It even has a comprehensive hint system for people new to the genre, or who just appreciate good game design. As for me, I'm happy to say that I can give this an I beat it out of 10. Camping Vlog Simulator. This should be a chill enough experience. The player takes on the role of a blogger cataloging her trip through the woods. Things should be simple. gather up some firewood, cook dinner, and get a nice night's sleep. And while I was prepping things, it went well enough. I was able to gather firewood, pick up some mushrooms, clean up some garbage, all nice, wholesome activities. And then it was time to set up camp, which again, pretty intuitive. Grabbing stuff from the SUV and holding down the mouse button to deploy. Not a lot was being asked of me, but hey, maybe it's just that kind of game. And then I realized, this was the whole game. There are just 2 maps as far as I can tell, and very little to do other than upgrade the camper's equipment so that they can generate more bonus money for basic tasks, allowing them to further upgrade the equipment. This is 5 minutes of gameplay that doesn't seem to ever change, repeated ad infinitum. It's not a loop that I'm particularly interested in repeating, so I can't give this anything higher than a 4 out of 10. Ad Infernum. I know I say this a lot, but I can't believe how good this game is. I loaded it up, having no idea what to expect, and after a prologue that did not imbue me with confidence, I was thrown into a desert hellscape unlike anything I've seen in ages. Trapped by a storm of otherworldly origin and hunted by demons, the player must explore a gas station and its immediate environs, led by a voice on the radio to discover the secrets of alchemy, all in the hopes of conjuring an escape. It's a small game, set in a small location. I played for an hour and I feel like I'm almost done. But the gas station is an extremely layered and complex map, full of alternate unlockable routes and places to hide. Owing as much to Thief and Half-Life 2 as it does Silent Hill, Ad Infernum lets players clamber all around the map, throwing cans to distract monsters or duck under air conditioners to hide from them. Now, this would all be good enough with just the dodging enemies and solving little puzzles, but the developers have gone the extra mile and included a full crafting system in the game, in which players can break down unwanted items into base alchemical units that can be crafted back into anything they can find a recipe for. It's a world that's intriguing enough to make me want to explore every part of it, and I can't recommend the experience highly enough. I'm absolutely going to be beating this game, so it gets a 9 out of 10. That's it for now. I've been the Hidden Object Guru. Thanks for watching. If you had a good time and you'd like to see more, there's buttons coming up to help you with that. Questions or suggestions for games I should check out, go in the comments section below the video. I will see you back here for more games once I've played some of them. But until then, I'll say that's right. Au revoir.